You're standing on the edge of a frozen plain. Wind rips through you, biting at every exposed inch of skin. The temperature? Maybe -20 Celsius, maybe lower. And that's just a normal Tuesday. This isn't Siberia in January. This is Europe, 30,000 years ago, smack in the middle of the last ice age. And you're not wearing GORETEX. You don't have a heated jacket. You probably don't even have a sheepskin coat. You're a relatively hairless primate, born in a world that, by all accounts, should have simply frozen you solid. The moment you stepped out of the womb, forget surviving. How did you even exist? For nearly 100,000 years, humanity faced some of the most brutal climatic conditions our species has ever known. Vast ice sheets, sometimes kilometers thick, scraped across continents, locking away enormous amounts of water and dropping global temperatures by an average of 6 to 10 degrees Celsius. In many places, it was a permanent winter wonderland, but one where winter never ended. The Arctic ice stretched down to places like New York City, London, and Berlin. Think about that. Modern humans, genetically almost identical to you and me, walked this planet when the average annual temperature in places like northern France hovered around 0 degrees. Even in summer, it was barely above freezing. Without our modern infrastructure, without our understanding of thermodynamics, without literally anything we take for granted today, how did they do it? What secret did they possess that allowed them to not just cling to existence, but to thrive, to push into new, colder territories, to lay the very foundations for everything we are today? It seems impossible, right? The truth is, it wasn't one secret. It was a complex, interlocking network of incredibly smart, almost audacious adaptations. And it started with something so basic, so utterly fundamental that we barely even think about it anymore. Fire. Controlling fire wasn't just about warmth, though that was a huge part of it. It was about turning a hostile, dark, and dangerous world into a manageable, illuminated, and safe space. Imagine the psychological comfort of that, flickering flame after a day of dodging saber-toothed cats and woolly rhinos. In sub-zero temperatures, fire allowed them to extend their active hours beyond daylight, providing light for crafting tools or socializing. It kept predators at bay. A ring of fire around a camp was like an ancient, flickering security system. But fire's biggest superpower, the one that directly changed our biology, was its ability to cook. Cooking meat and vegetables breaks down tough fibers, making food easier to chew and digest. This means our ancestors could extract far more calories and nutrients from their meals with less effort. Think of it like this. If you eat a raw potato, your body works hard to get minimal calories. Cook that potato, and suddenly it's a calorie powerhouse, easily absorbed. This efficiency was absolutely vital. Every calorie counted when you were battling the cold. Our brains, those energy-guzzling supercomputers, benefited massively from this calorie surplus, setting the stage for even more complex problem solving. It's a feedback loop. Fire leads to better food. Better food leads to bigger brains. Bigger brains lead to better use of fire, and so on. But even with a roaring fire, you can't just sit there naked. You need to insulate your body. And that's where ancient fashion really took off. It wasn't about style. It was about survival. Our ancestors became masters of what's essentially the world's first advanced materials science, using animal hides. Think about how a modern down jacket works. It traps air. Trapped air is a terrible conductor of heat, so it keeps your body heat in. Animal fur and skins, especially from large, cold-adapted animals like mammoths, bison, and reindeer, did the exact same thing. But merely throwing a hide over your shoulders wasn't enough. You needed tailoring. Archaeological sites have given us incredible insights. Bone needles, sometimes incredibly fine, dating back tens of thousands of years. These weren't for knitting intricate tapestries. They were for stitching together tailored clothing. Imagine putting on an ill-fitting blanket versus a perfectly sized coat. The coat keeps you warmer because it eliminates drafts and traps more air. Our ancestors were making multi-layered outfits, tunics, trousers, hooded parkas, even gloves and boots. They used sinew as thread and likely chewed hides to soften them, transforming stiff, unworkable skin into pliable, insulating fabric. This wasn't primitive. This was sophisticated engineering born from sheer necessity, and it created microclimates around their bodies, allowing them to carry a bubble of warmth with them wherever they went. So they had fire, they had clothes. But where did they actually live? You can't just build a campfire anywhere and expect to survive a blizzard. They needed shelter, and they became absolute experts at finding, adapting, and even building structures that could withstand the unrelenting cold. Caves were, of course, the obvious choice. Naturally insulated, offering protection from wind and snow, and relatively stable in temperature. But not just any cave. They were selective. South-facing caves, for example, would catch the meager winter sun, helping to warm the entrance and melt snow. The deeper parts of a cave, while darker, maintained a more constant temperature, often just above freezing, providing a crucial refuge from the most extreme external cold. Think of it like a natural refrigerator, but in reverse. But what if there were number caves? This is where things get truly mind-bending. In places like Ukraine and Russia, archaeologists have unearthed astounding structures. Circular huts built from the bones of woolly mammoths. We're talking dozens, sometimes hundreds, of mammoth bones. Massive femurs, pelvic bones, even skulls, forming the foundations and walls. These would have then been draped with animal hides, sealed with clay or mud, and possibly insulated further with peat or turf. These weren't temporary campsites. These were semi-permanent homes, capable of housing entire families, providing serious protection against the elements. Building one of these would have required immense planning, cooperation, and a deep understanding of structural integrity. It speaks volumes about their ingenuity and their commitment to survival. Beyond physical shelter, there was another, less tangible but equally powerful shield against the cold: community. Solitary survival in the Ice Age was almost certainly a death sentence. Groups meant shared resources, shared knowledge, and crucially, shared body heat. Imagine a small band of 20 or 30 people. When night falls, or a storm hits, they would huddle together. More bodies in a confined space mean more heat. It's the same principle as a bunch of penguins in Antarctica, creating a huddle to conserve warmth. But for humans, it went further. Someone was always maintaining the fire. Someone else was mending clothes. Others were preparing food or scouting for resources. This division of labor, this reliance on each other, fostered a level of cooperation that likely became hardwired into our species. It wasn't just about sharing a kill, it was about sharing the burden of staying alive. Our deep-seated social nature, our need for belonging, for collaboration, it was all forged in the crucible of the Ice Age. And what about their diet? Staying warm burns an incredible amount of calories. An adult human in a cold environment can burn thousands more calories a day just to maintain core body temperature. So ancient humans needed to eat a lot, and they needed to eat calorie-dense foods. This meant meat. Lots and lots of high-fat, high-protein meat from large animals. They weren't vegans. They were apex predators. Hunting a woolly mammoth or a giant bison wasn't just a physical challenge, it was a logistical masterpiece. It required coordinated effort, specialized tools, and a deep understanding of animal behavior. Once a large animal was taken down, every part of it was utilized. Meat for food, fat for fuel and calories, hides for clothing and shelter, bones for tools and construction, sinews for thread. They weren't wasteful. Not because of some ethical stance, but because waste meant death. This intense focus on efficient resource extraction shaped their tools, their hunting strategies, and even their migration patterns as they followed animal herds. The Ice Age wasn't just a period of hardship, it was a period of incredible innovation. Think about the spear thrower, or atlatl. It's a simple lever that allows you to throw a spear with much greater force and accuracy, effectively extending your arm. This wasn't just a cool gadget, it was a game changer for hunting large, dangerous animals, allowing hunters to keep a safer distance. This seemingly small technological leap had massive implications for calorie acquisition and, by extension, survival. And here's a truly mind-bending thought. The very act of surviving the Ice Age might have fundamentally altered human evolution beyond mere culture and technology. While obvious biological, adaptations like thicker fur never happened for us. There are subtle hints. Some theories suggest that certain populations might have developed slightly stockier builds or shorter limbs, which reduce the surface area to volume ratio, helping to conserve heat It's the same reason Arctic animals like polar bears have smaller ears compared to their desert cousins. Our ancestors were not just passively enduring the cold. They were actively adapting, pushing the boundaries of what a relatively fragile primate could achieve. The most profound legacy of the Ice Age isn't found in a cave painting or a bone tool, though those are incredible. It's in us. Every time we put on a coat, light a fire, cook a meal, or gather with friends for warmth and conversation, we are echoing the survival strategies of our Ice Age ancestors. They didn't just survive, they thrived against all odds, creating the blueprint for complex societies. Our ability to adapt, to innovate, to cooperate. These weren't just convenient traits. They were essential for not freezing to death. The challenges they faced were monumental, yet they met them with ingenuity and tenacity. We are quite literally the descendants of the greatest problem solvers the world has ever seen. So the next time you feel a chill, remember that deep within our DNA is the echo of those who stared down a frozen world and said, "Not today." What seemingly impossible challenge do we face as a species right now that our descendants will look back on, not as a crisis, but as just another testament to humanity's stubborn, ingenious will to survive?